I'll remind you guys, I played FF14 for 6 months. It was so good, but then I returned to World of Warcraft. The reason is I think FF14 are just vehemently refusing to update their engine, and that just sucked. The game moves like ass. You know it, I know it. It can be played on your phone. It's embarrassing. In 2026, we can't really have that. But everything other than that, the game is goated, which just frustrates me even more because I really want to come back and play this game, especially for Evercold, but I just can't.
Have you ever wondered to yourself, I want to sit down and give a company hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year to sink thousands of hours into a video game that you can play, doing tedious quests like killing the same enemy 500 times, running back and forth between NPCs, having to try to struggle and read the dialogue because the American education system has failed you, hoping that you might actually find a Discord kitten by any chance, and even getting bullied because you're garbage at a dungeon? I have the two perfect MMOs for you, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. I love both of these games, baby. I truly am.
Maybe we are one of the same. Interesting. Interesting. We're not so different after all.
Having the time of my life playing them. Both Final Fantasy World of Warcraft are considered to be the most popular games within the MMO genre, so inherently they're always going to kind of be pit against each other as to which game is better and which one should I play right now? Why does my dad not love me? Boys, I don't know, brother. You got to get that checked out. With that being said, there truly is no genuine objective truth as to which game you should play first or which one is objectively better. That's just not the case.
No, they're completely different, and that's the only reason why all of these games that are different from World of Warcraft didn't die. Because the moment you try to be World of Warcraft, you perish. Wildstar tried to do it, immediately died. Rift tried to do it, dead on arrival. There's nothing you can do to compete with World of Warcraft because World of Warcraft already took all the players in that niche. So you gotta create something that is completely different or slightly similar. And FF14 is different enough. It is similar. It's the most similar MMO out there to World of Warcraft, but it's still vastly different, which is good. It's a good thing.
Final Fantasy XIV and WoW, while
it's
they
definitely
are
not bad.
MMOs and have some similarities, serve as two completely different experiences for the players due to the fact that both game developers have very distinct philosophies on how you actually progress and experience everything inside of the MMO. I'm new to both games. Right now in Final Fantasy XIV, I've just reached Heaven's Ward. I've done some primal fights on the hardest difficulty
he's really
possible
new.
with level sync. I've been able to do some dungeons, try out different roles, and with World of Warcraft, I leveled up a character from 1 to I believe around 75, doing the dragonflight.
So you only played retail for 2 hours? That's crazy, man. I mean, okay. I mean, I thought he did, like, I thought he had way more experience, but he did play retail, so my condolences.
Quest, and
I do
once
understand.
Midnight came out, I was able to get a boost to get to 80 and actually play through the Midnight campaign, and now I've hit officially level 90. I can truly start to get into the Mythic Pluses.
Poor guy. Oh, my heart truly goes to him. Oh, he doesn't now. Don't tell him. Don't tell
I
him.
haven't made it too far yet, only on Mythic 2, but we're trying to get up there. And I could say immediately off rip, just within the first couple hours of playing these games, they're not even comparable in my mind.
There you go.
I mean, I
told
even
you.
started off with Retail WoW as my first MMO, and at one point when I tried Final Fantasy XIV, I actually quit the game because I felt that it didn't really feel enough like Retail WoW, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Went in with these expectations.
What he's saying in, like, very overt translation from me is the game moves like trash. And he's right about that. World of Warcraft's biggest strength, I think it's the gameplay. Nowadays, at least. Obviously, back in the day, it had a lot of strengths. Nowadays, the game is pretty much devoid of life whatsoever. And the only good thing it has going, it's the incredible gameplay. World of Warcraft is the best tab targeting experience you can ever have inside of an MMORPG. FF14 combat feels like they had a turn-based game turn into like real tab targeting game, and it doesn't work. It's somewhere in between. It's just very clunky. It's very buggy. I remember the first time I tried FF14 with my friend. We were in the free trial, and we thought we lagged. We thought we had like 800 ping because everything you do has half a second delay, and it's just the engine. It's how the game moves. You get used to it eventually, but it's just really, really bad and off-putting.
of how the game should function instead of allowing the game to tell me what type of experience they're trying to provide. Thankfully, I came back and I'm having the time of my life. Not saying one is better, but you gotta approach these games with an open mind and not try to immediately compare the two. It's all about your personal preference. So let's break this down. The best way I could really start and describe this biggest difference is that there's a saying that goes,
"You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball." What?
you've probably heard this before, but Final Fantasy XIV feels more like an RPG MMO as opposed to WoW being an actual MMORPG. With 14, the primary gameplay loop is heavily focused more on the RPG elements rather than the MMO elements. The story is directly tied to almost every single aspect of the game, so in order for you to pretty much reach anywhere, you need to progress through this story. Not only do you have to progress through the story, but everything is meticulously placed, and there is pretty much some sort of importance for almost everything I've experienced so far.
Exactly, and that's what I really love about FF14. You have to go through the entire story from start to finish. But you know what the best feature about this is? You only have to do it once, because you have every single role and every single class on one character. And I think that's a great, no, not great, phenomenal design decision. Because now you only have to immerse yourself once, and you're done. You just wait for the next expansion, and you just do what you do. And also, it makes all the content way more meaningful, because you have more time to invest yourself inside of the story instead of skipping it. And all of the dungeons, all of the raids that you unlock, they make sense, and they have more of an impact because you actually care about the story.
So for example, I meet this random NPC that's trying to assault a woman because he feels that they're actually stealing goods from a shop, and I have this battle sequence where I have to beat bro up, and in my mind I'm like, okay, like, don't get me wrong, I'm here to protect you, my lady, because I myself, I love men, I mean women, oh yeah, but it just felt a little out of place. Like, what does this actually have to do to the overarching plot? Come to find out that you run into that person again later onwards, and I won't get into spoiler territory, but it's like, oh, wait a second, I remember you. This happens very often in Final Fantasy, where it's always good to pay attention, and it is tied to story. Even something like just unlocking the dungeons for you to play in the game are all, once again, say with me, tied back to the story quest. I'm not just going into a random mission and completing it for no actual cause. There is always some sort of underlying issue that will circle back to whatever the main character is doing. Maybe I need to go into a dungeon to save someone. I have to get them an item that they were looking for that was crucial for the plot to move forward. I need to go fight a boss to save the world and make sure that the world of Erosia is not cooked, right? There's always a reason for what you are doing, and that reason is because of the overarching story you are experiencing. You are the main character of the world, aka the Warrior of Light. It's established very early on that the world of Erosia is revolving around you and your actions. Questing will not be randomly going around killing 5 boars and returning back with those items and kind of just moving on to the next NPC. A lot of the times, the quest, especially in the beginning 30 to 40 hours of the game, is pretty much going back and forth, talking to characters, reading dialogue, doing a lot of world building, learning about different political factions, laying the foundation for what's going to always come next.
Exactly, and I think that's what deterred a lot of players from actually playing, because FF14 is not a real MMORPG, it's just a single-player game with, I guess, multiplayer elements. It feels way more like Guild Wars 1 rather than like a true MMO.
You'll get a long stretch of cutscenes, tons of unvoiced dialogue, and while Final Fantasy XIV kinda did a little bit of a reset with their most recent DLC Dawn Trail, starting a whole new story arc, prior to all of that in 14 was leading to Endwalker, which came out in 2021, a nearly 10-year story that is played in sequential order to make you not only feel attached to the world and your comrades and the people you're adventuring with, but be attached to your character since you are the focal point. In reality, the MMO aspects of 14 could be stripped away tomorrow and the game would still function very well. Please don't do that, because I have a lot of fun with them. but realistically, a lot of people consider this to be a single player game. I've had friends who've downloaded it recently who have literally only played solo, and anytime they haven't played solo, they had to queue for maybe a dungeon or a 24-man raid because the game forces them to. Other than that, they're not interacting with anyone. The MMO aspects such as raids, multiplayer dungeons, PvP, open areas with tons of people, guild, all come as a second supporting role within the game to the story mode. These are there to enhance the overall experience of playing the mainline story as opposed to being the main focus. World of Warcraft is the complete opposite, brother. In WoW, the main character of the game is the actual world of itself, Azeroth. Your adventure is shaped by how you interact with all the people and the systems that are actually in the world. Everyone's adventure is going to look very different from one another, where 14 is a very linear path. You download 14, go play Base of Realm Reborn, you play Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, Shadowbringer, so on and so forth. It's just a straight line. Now, WoW does have 20 years worth of DLCs that you could actually play, and I'm not saying...
But you never will because you're a new player and you have no idea what the hell you're doing. And Blizzard couldn't care less about making a great new player experience because they're already assuming everyone who's playing World of Warcraft is an old veteran that's just too addicted to quit. And you know what's funny? They're probably right.
People don't enjoy the story content because there's tons of people that truly do enjoy the lore of World of Warcraft, since it dates all the way back to like the Warcraft series and it's still solid. The game design, however, is really more there to push you to reach the max level, which is level 90, to actually get started with the end game, rather than focusing on what happened in TBC, what happened in Cataclysm, what happened in Legion, Wrath of the Lich King. You're not so focused on trying to figure out all of the stories that happened over the last 20 years. You can focus on those and you could run stuff from previous time. It's optional, but it's not needed, and it's not what is required to move forward, where in 14 you are required to play the story. When you launch retail right now, you start off by doing the tutorial for whichever place you picked. So I would pick Exile Reach, earn some new skills as you level up, and then once you finish your tutorial phase, you immediately jump into the last 3 expansions. This is a way to get players streamlined into the current max level as fast as possible, since as I've said before, that is truly where everything starts to unlock and the real content begins. Once I hit level 90, I unlock heroic dungeons, mythic dungeons, which keep going up in level scaling and power to give you more of a challenge, raids, delves, PvP, seasonal progressions. I mean, there's so much shit to do once you hit 90. So a lot of people beeline to that shit, me being one of them. Even going through...
Well, funny thing is, all of the shit you do is going to be instantly invalidated upon the arrival of the next patch, which now they're on an 8-week cycle patch, so it's not even that long. You're not going to have all of this accomplishment being commemorated for long. You're just going to lose every single thing and start from fresh. It's so annoying. It's so appalling. Like, they made the game into Diablo instead of making it what it used to be.
These stories themselves and you're paying attention, it is
absolutely
way
revolting.
More action oriented compared to 14. You pick up a quest from an NPC, go to this area, wipe out as many enemies as possible until the bar reads 100%. You go back, give the quest in, you get a little bit of a dialogue you could pay attention to or not. You could read the quest stuff or not if you really don't care. Clear these 10 mobs, go back, give the quest in, and pretty much and kind of rinse and repeat. Most of these quests are here to design you to keep actually physically playing the game, keep experiencing the combat as much as possible. Now, there are cutscenes sprinkled throughout the most recent expansions in WoW, but is nowhere near the volume of Final Fantasy XIV, since, well, 14's focal point from the very beginning is the story. Every 5 seconds I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV, we're having long dialogue sequences discussing the main plot line, where again, in WoW, I'm mainly pretty much just killing shit and going flying from point A to point B. Now, allowing players to pick how they want to play the game, if they want to sit down and truly experience previous expansions and take their time and read every piece of dialogue and lore in World of Warcraft, is fantastic. However, they are also given the option to say, listen, listen, if you really don't give a fuck about that, just keep playing the game for a couple hours. You could probably grind this shit out in maybe 10 hours-ish and you're at endgame, right? That's really good because it's not going to cut off a lot of people to think it's a massive fucking slog to have to run through the story to get to the endgame. Now, I will say, when I tried to pay attention to what was going on my new character or old character, had a hard time in WoW because I really didn't know what was going on from previous expansions or other.
You have been spared, brother. Even if you understand the story, it just becomes worse. I hate FF14. You might as well start reading a book. Well, I love reading books, if the books are good. And FF14 story was great. I read through all of it. It was fantastic.
Their previous characters, so,
minus the Realm Reborn part, which is, it is a slog you need to go through once. But personally, everyone found it, like, very, very jarring. I found it to be okay. It wasn't good as the expansions, obviously, but it wasn't that bad, in my opinion, at least.
If you are trying to become a lore buff, it does seem to be harder, especially for a newer player. So again, it's good that you have the option to pay attention to these new expansions or go back to the other ones, but how much you'll understand, I don't particularly know. It seems like you might have to go to outside resources to fully grasp older expansions. That's just the feeling I've gotten so far. While again, in 14, if you wanted to skip the story, you pretty much have to buy a boost. You hear me say the word story a lot. If someone wants to write in the comments maybe how many times I said story, let me know, excluding those two. However, with Final Fantasy XIV story, progression is locked through this. And some people are not going to like that. Maybe that's why some people possibly prefer WoW, which again truly boils down to your own actual personal enjoyment. Just imagine you're a new Final Fantasy XIV player, you go onto Twitch and you see that people are running this new Savage Kefka raid, and you're like, oh shit, I'm trying to get in on that. Or your friends are showing you more endgame dungeons and raids and whatnot from different collabs. You're like, oh shit, let me download the game right now and figure this shit out. You come to realize that you have hundreds of hours of content to get through before you could even reach that end goal, unless you buy a skip. That might,
that's actually a pretty good deterrent for players you don't want inside of your game. Players who just want to reach the end game, reach the quote-unquote fun parts, instead of doing all of the story that leads up to it. It's actually pretty good. I wish World of Warcraft had that. Maybe we'd had a few less Boglamites if Blizzard had the competency to do such a thing.
Turn some people off, and I know that turns some people off. Me personally, that should turn me on though. I wanted to experience everything the game has to offer, but not everyone wants to do that. So just
No, delayed gratification is extremely important in video games and especially MMORPGs. So I'm glad FF14 didn't really just capitulated to their demands. But at the same time, you can buy a boost, which I'm very much against. I'm against the cash up in FF14 in general. I think it's just really odd that you have, like, subscription and a cash up inside of the video game. It's so stupid.
Off of that alone, you
should never have that.
Realize that the progression and how you're going to get from point A to point B is vastly different. So you can't say one is objectively better than the other. Yeah, I just don't think you can. Oh, there was a very pleasant surprise when I downloaded Final Fantasy XIV, and that is you're able to actually play every single class available in the game on one character you create. In WoW, if you started off on, let's say, a demon hunter and you hated it, you now need to go back and make an alt character for whatever new class you want to try. There isn't really much of a reason for someone to create an alt in Final Fantasy XIV, since everything is streamlined onto that one character, the Warrior of Light, who is again the main character of the story. So it adds a level of attachment to your main unit, as in WoW, you might be swapping between a couple different characters depending on what classes you're playing. And I'm not saying you can't be attached to your character in World of Warcraft, because I know a lot of people are, especially in Classic, but it feels a lot easier to be attached to my Warrior of Light just due to the fact that he's a jack of all trades, while in World of Warcraft I'm swapping between different fucking classes over and over again that are just completely different units. Now, the classes in WoW seem to have way more depth than Final Fantasy XIV. Each class in WoW...
Every class in FF14 is the same. And you can convince me otherwise. Maybe there are a few that are outliers, but every single class in FF14 plays exactly the same.
It's going to have a distinct feel with multiple different spec trees, allowing the class to operate differently. For example, a warrior can run arms, which would be a two-handed weapon for DPS, a fury warrior being able to dual wield for DPS, or protection, which will allow you to tank. people's rotations can vary even if they're going to pick a similar spec, due to the fact that you have these skill trees where you're able to pick and choose what you want to put onto your hotbar. A lot of the times people will go to outside resources like Wowhead in order to just kind of find out whatever is the best for their role that they want to fill, but there is way more creativity and freedom in between each individual class in WoW as there is in 14. In Final Fantasy 14, let's say you pick a Dragoon, which is a DPS, most Dragoon players are going to have a pretty standardized rotation that is universal, since that is the most optimal way to play the class. Some people, this more in-depth play style of being able to pick and choose which abilities to use from the individual skill trees and multiple specs really adds a level of depth to the game that they really enjoy, while others like this Fantasy 14's combat and abilities being a bit more streamlined. One thing I have to note about 14 is
you do have ability bloat in FF14, but to be fair, World of Warcraft has it way worse, so it is something both games kind of need to pay attention to. But yeah, like FF14 is definitely way simpler to grasp, which many people, including myself, can appreciate. You still need to finish Endwalker. Dawntrail isn't bad. I love the environments in Dawntrail, especially the last zone. Listen, one day I might return to FF14 out of pure boredom. For now, I'm going to cling up on the hope that Classic Plus would be somewhat good.
Brother, it's way more flashy than WoW. Like these actual fighting animations in 14.
Yeah, Realm Reborn is a slow burn. It's worth it though.
I sat down and looked at all.
Realm Reborn is extremely worth it at the end. The moment you hit Heavensward, even before that, it becomes really, really good.
All the jobs and all these abilities and the flashes and the particle effects is like, what the fuck am I playing? Like, what is this shit? But it's all fun and games until you're in a raid and some dickhead fucking blinds you, and then you actually have to turn off teammate abilities because shit is just getting too flashy and it's too chaotic. You don't really have that in WoW, and you don't particularly need it, but it is nice to look at sometimes. Like,
you don't have that in WoW, brother? You really? Oh, okay, he's a new player. He doesn't know. But you literally need an add-on called Get the Fuck Out to make sure you're not stepping in pools of miasma. Okay? You literally need an add-on for that. And in case you don't know how the add-on works, basically whenever you step in something you shouldn't, the add-on go like, ah! And you're like, oh, damn, okay. I need to move away. That's the add-on. And yeah, it's pretty much mandatory today.
Yeah, bro, my shit dripped the fuck out, but I'm
at least, you know, to my knowledge. I don't know if they changed it. I'm pretty sure it's still viable in this day and age because I used it myself.
So doing some pretty crazy moves, like it's kind of cool. Now, you've probably seen multiple patterns here, and one being that World of Warcraft, retail at least, is much more fast-paced than 14 and is really trying to get you to the destination as fast as possible, while 14 is wanting you to enjoy just the ride and the journey and not speedrun to the end. And that speed of fast versus slow in some ways applies to gameplay. With Final Fantasy XIV, your global cooldown is going to be roughly about 2.5 seconds, where compared to WoW's is going to be around 1 second depending on the class. Now, gameplay in 14 will feel a lot slower at the beginning, in the first 10 to 20 hours, due to the fact that you only have a certain amount of abilities that you're able to cast, and you're not going to really get off cooldown abilities, which you can weave in between your combos until later on in the game.
Look how many abilities he has at, like, what, level 31? That's crazy. My god.
14's combat actually does get better with time, trust me, as I've learned and grown with my different classes like Red Mage or Dragoon. They become much more faster to actually play, but it is that hurdle of getting over it in the beginning. WoW's global cooldown is pretty much 1 second, and sometimes could be even less depending on the stats and what gear you're wearing. So you're able to probably wind up weaving way more attacks during that time of your actual ability during your combat, and some people like that faster pace. It is, again, say it with me, personal preference. The actual bosses seem to function very differently as well. From Final Fantasy XIV, what I've experienced so far, it seems to be very kind of choreographed. Over time, as you fight the boss, you're going to learn their moveset, know the move list, and need to make sure that you have the mechanics down and your positioning down as good as possible, right? You're not really thrown off as of yet from what I've experienced with things randomly out of the blue. Although you might wipe and your team discover a new mechanic, in totality, you go in there to experience a kind of bit of a checklist with expectation of what's to come and making sure that you are standing in the right spot so you don't die, as WoW bosses seem to be a bit more unpredictable. Yes, there are going to be mechanics that you need to do fighting WoW bosses, but it seems that you might have to adjust on the fly a bit more than you would in something like 14, because it's not.
Bro, can't you see a clear difference between the two games? Just rating, and I mean doing like multiplayer content. The FF14 player screen looked like a normal human being screen where you can actually see the boss and the mechanics and have fun doing them. And the WoW player screens look like that. What the fuck? Dude, how can this be fun to anyone? I'm embarrassed that I used to play this game. It's so cringe. You don't even know what the hell is going on. You need a robot to tell you what to do. And that's why FF14 and Guild Wars 2 raids are 10 times more fun than WoW raids. No matter how many people will tell me that WoW raids are like sublime and they're good, maybe technically, yes, they're kind of interesting, but this can never be more fun. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid as hell. It should never be a thing.
Not always going to be in that order.
Holy crap,
now
it's
the
so
game
bad.
design, bro. I keep seeing, for some reason, people trying to change World of Warcraft's game design.
I haven't
to
watched
make
the
it
new
more
one.
realistic on
I don't play
Twitter.
Midnight,
I'm
bro.
gonna need
Like,
y'all
it's too
motherfuckers
much.
to stop. That shit is ugly as hell. That's just a sidebar. Leave it alone. If you don't like it, play something else. Fuck. Graphics in both games, to me, are very enjoyable to look at, and well, they appease to completely two different audiences. Final Fantasy XIV is attacking the graphics from a much more anime style, but still kind of based in the world of realism within the anime aesthetic, right? The races are pretty much, hey, he's a human and another human and Shrek, while WoW is extremely stylized and has much more of a fantasy to it.
FF14 graphics are extremely outdated mobile-esque gaming, and World of Warcraft is just Disney-fied Pixar slop. That's it. There we go. I summarized it for you. I guess he wouldn't say that because, I don't know, he doesn't want to for some reason, so I'll just call it straight. Both of these graphics are trash, and they need to be updated and changed immediately. Maybe not in terms of, like, World of Warcraft, maybe not in terms of, like, fidelity and stuff. I think the fidelity is okay. They definitely need to change their art direction. And with FF14 is actually the complete opposite. The art direction is good. I love how classes are looking, but they need higher fidelity. So it's kind of an opposite problem thing.
You're going to have much more variety within the actual races and classes of each character. So what World of Warcraft has way less restrictions with their design, so they can make something extremely wild and outlandish that doesn't look like it would fit in, but would actually fit in due to the way that they have approached the stylized graphics of their game. I mean, dude, there's so much I haven't even talked about, right? I mean, the fashion in both games is vastly different. You know, to me, Final Fantasy XIV personally has my favorite glam system, just due to the fact you can pretty much create almost any character from any video game or anime, like Leon, Naruto, Michael Jackson. At the same time, though, there is tons of glam in 14 that could be very immersion breaking and make you feel like, what the fuck, this is standing out. How are me and this person playing the same exact game? Doesn't really bother me, but I could see the complaints of that, where WoW seems to be a little bit more grounded in realism within their own world. It truly, at the end of the day, boils down to the preference, right? So I don't think one game is objectively better than the other. If you had to ask me, right now I'm enjoying Final Fantasy XIV more, but I do plan to progress and give World of Warcraft even more of a try and try to make it as high as I can in Mythics.
And then you'll immediately understand that FF14 is objectively better than retail World of Warcraft. But yeah, I mean, great video, guys. I'm gonna leave a link so you guys can watch it for yourself and give it a like. This was pretty interesting. It was a fair comparison. Definitely. He was actually being really, really fair. I like that. He gave both games similar amount of time. Clearly, he's enjoying FF14 way more, as he should, because retail suck. And yeah, I'm glad to see it. I'm just glad to see it. The thing that irked me about FF14 was the zones just being empty. If you haven't reached the final zone, then yes, I agree. But the moment you reach the final zones, you see a ton of players. A ton of players. But because this game is like super linear, all the players are at the top. Now, if you want to do lower level content, you'll always find people because of the mentorship system, and that's awesome. But when you're walking out in the open, you're not going to see that many people until you hit the end game, and then you'll see plenty. Wait, not true about FF14 graphics. Dawntrail gave a graphic overhaul with better textures and detail. You can see sunlight trying to go to your ear in real life. A flashlight behind your finger. Oh, you're talking about like the lighting? Yeah, I heard they improved that. The problem isn't like the lighting and stuff. The problem is generally how the game look. You can run the game on PS3. And I know they disabled it on PS3, but not because of technical limitation. It's because the game just, you know, nobody has PS3 anymore, right? It's really bad looking game. There's no way you can defend it. And if you somewhat defend this game as like not looking bad, it seems weird, man. It seems disingenuous. Everyone knows that FF14 looks like shit. Everyone knows that. It's garbage, it moves like garbage, and that is the only thing that prevents the game from reaching the heights it deserves. If FF14 got an engine update, I would be playing the hell out of it. Many more players like me would have played it. But they never did it, and that's why they never got to any more players, and the game just started slowly falling down. And it's very, very unfortunate, because at a certain point, the game was doing better numbers in World of Warcraft, and I was happy for it, because the game is good. The game is fantastic, and I want to play it again. I just can't.